I want to thank Deputy Healy-Rae, who I'm standing in for today, Michael Healy-Rae, and he's asked me to raise this issue. Contractors are finding it increasingly difficult to stand over tender prices for periods of up to 2 years, which many projects run to, because of the rising cost of materials. In the last year, Taoiseach, the construction materials prices have seen every month and have increased every month, and have increased by 26.7%, which is a shocking amount. According to the Central Statistics Office, most recent wholesale price indexes, not my words. This represents a truly staggering statistic, Taoiseach. The material shortages have started to ease. However, the cost of materials will probably continue well into 2022. The price of rough timber, meanwhile, has gone up by over 80%. The cost of plaster up by 20%, and steel has doubled. And several local authorities have highlighted the effect this has had on house building. Construction cost inflation is impacting on tender prices, and contractors are finding it increasingly difficult to price and even to procure prices themselves for suppliers for that period. Anybody who gets a price today, even for a house or a house extension or whatever, the builders' suppliers will only give you 3 days, maybe a week at most. And it's not that they want to help people, it's because the prices are going up on a weekly basis. So I'm asking you, the crisis in this sector is risking jeopardising major initiatives such as the home building and the national infrastructure projects as well. This is completely untenable for the construction industry to take on all the risks for the exceptional price inflation under current state building contracts. And this impacts on all contractors and subbies down the line. And when a builder finds out, or whether it's a school project or whatever, that he can't complete within the tender price, could it be 2 years old? Could be a year and a half, because of delays with the department and everything else from tender time to getting the job. And then they're ending up in a crisis situation, can't complete the job maybe, in spite of their best efforts, and they're good builders, and can't pay their subbies. Knock-on effect, can't pay the suppliers. It's a huge issue, as well as having impacts on the construction economy as well. Rising material costs and labour costs could be important competition going forward, and will have huge impact on how we're going to deal with post-pandemic recovery. The materials crisis means that there is an urgent need to overhaul how the industry procures and manages supply itself, and they won't look at that. And I know the government promised, but I haven't seen anything, or the construction industry haven't seen any real cogent plans or offered or changed. So higher energy costs, higher energy prices, gas, coal and diesel, and the carbon tax has put huge impacts on site clearance and all the industrial machinery and lorries hauling cement and gravel and other aggregates to the site. So it's a spiralling cost. These are good builders, as we know, that have worked as maybe dinner one and maybe dinner and small builders, and then up to 10, up to 20, up to 50. And they cannot just survive. The cost of labour, the cost of insurance, the cost of materials, as I said. But above all, I'm asking you, what are you, as your government, going to do to alleviate this and ease the pressure on this very worthwhile sector that needs to be respected?
First of all, I want to pay tribute to the sector. I think it has responded very well since we reopened society and sectors of the economy since springtime. The construction sector has really rebounded, to be fair to it. From October to October, we're looking at about 31,000 housing commencements, which is a significant piece of work in terms of getting house building back on track to the kind of levels that we need to deal with the housing crisis and the situation facing many, many people. You correctly point to cost inflation in respect to construction, mainly because of global supply chain issues resulting from COVID-19, which have been a big problem across Europe and across the globe. Some dated back to that blockage in the Suez Canal, you might recall. Then you add Brexit to it. Brexit has not been helpful either in terms of some supply chains. So there has been inflation. It has affected and impacted public sector contracts. And we've had some situations where people who won tenders did not take them up on the basis that the costs had now overreached the what they could afford, what they bid. So the Minister for Public Expenditure is introducing changes, and they are being put in place now for new tenders. The fixed price period is being reduced by 6 months to 24 months. Material price variation can be accommodated subject to certain limits, and guidance is being issued for current contracts. So the Minister acknowledges the issues that you have raised. He's brought this to the attention of government some weeks ago, and the measures are now being introduced to try and ease the situation, create additional flexibility to accommodate the new realities arising out of the supply chain issues that have affected the industry and the increase in costs. Where the view from ECB and others is that this is not long-term, that this shouldn't be long-term, and that this would be that things will come back to an even keel, certainly towards the end of Q1 of 2022. But that remains to be seen. There can never be any certainties in life, particularly in the middle of a pandemic. But we are very conscious of the issues, Deputy, and the Minister has moved on the tender front to recognise the realities of the situation and to ensure that construction projects that we want to get ahead have the capacity to get ahead, be it schools, housing, across the board, because there's a significant piece of infrastructural work that we require to be done. We have very large capital programmes. We want value for money, so we want to be responsive to the current situation also.
Thank you, Taoiseach.
You paint a picture like of a perfect storm. We saw this coming with 12 months, and your government must have, and your advisors that you have must have seen it, because it's crippling. And the huge delay with people working from home and getting the tenders out and getting documents back to schools and get it back to builders and all, that's delayed as well. So in good faith, contractors are tendering, and we need these contractors now to engage the new apprentices that we're taking into Thurles and elsewhere, which are badly needed in the construction industry. But if we haven't these builders, if they can't stay above water level, they're in trouble, and they get no mercy from revenue and less from the banks. So we need to deal with this seriously, and we're coming late to the table. This storm has been brewing, and it's a hurricane now. And, you know, we have no red alerts about it, but people are going to the wall. Projects can't be finished. Knock-on effects then on subcontractors, suppliers, all local, because most of these people spend money locally in their own, 25-mile radius, and they have track records in supplying, the building and delivering on time, based on projects. They want to do that again, but we must have more. I don't know what figure you quoted for the reduction of the fixed price tenders. I didn't quite get it. Was it down to 24 months? That's way too long. Did you say from 30 down to 24? You can't have a fixed tender for 24 months. You couldn't do it. You can only do it now for 8 weeks, because it's so serious. The prices are going up by the week. Go on, Margaret.
I do acknowledge the Deputy's experience in the contracting world and that, but I think the Minister has responded to the issues. They will now permit mutual cost recovery for material price changes of over 15%, so therefore where costs rise by over 15%, the contractor can recover this. So measures have been taken in response to this issue, and the balance always has to be struck between value for money, protecting the taxpayer and getting a fair deal for the taxpayer, but also we take the point of ensuring that people have a viable situation in terms of tendering and in terms of getting work done and getting projects completed. I think that is clearly important also.